Mini reviews with no spoilers, standard. Hi everyone, I'm back today with some mini reviews, spoiler free as usual, and I have 5 books to talk about today. The first one I don't have a copy of because it was an audiobook and I listened to it, but I'll talk about that one first since that one is actually the first one I got through. And that book was He Said, She Said by Erin Kelly. So I'll just show you what the cover looks like. And I gave that one 5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. He Said, She Said is about a couple who really enjoy chasing eclipses. So they travel all around the country and all around the world, chasing the solar eclipses that happen around the world. So they go to one festival in Glastonbury, and this isn't a spoiler, this happens at the beginning of the book. It's pretty much the premise of the entire book. So the boyfriend and the girlfriend are at a festival in Glastonbury, and the girlfriend goes wandering off and ends up walking into a tent and walks in on what she believes to be a sexual assault taking place. And the rest of the book is a really interesting look at the recollections, what they saw, what they didn't see, statements, testimonies, and just who they've invited into their life. It's a thriller, it's really good, and I find it really engaging, and I wasn't expecting the ending. And I find lots of the times with thrillers that you can often sort of guess the ending, but I didn't see this one coming until near enough the very end of the book when things started to click into place for me. So I'd really recommend that one. 5 out of 5 stars, was absolutely brilliant. The next one that I've got is this one, Scary Old Sex by Arlene Hayman. So this one's a short story collection about the various sex lives of different people. I hauled this not long ago, and I was quite excited to read it. I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would. Some of the stories left me feeling a little bit cold, and I do think some of the stories were actually intended to shock rather than be sort of a look into a life, if you get what I'm saying, which put me off a little bit. So I gave this 3 out of 5 stars because it was alright, but it's not one that I would strongly recommend. The next one that I read was this one, Strictly Between Us by Jane Fallon. I did mention that I'm getting more back into my women's fiction, and so obviously I couldn't wait to read another women's fiction book, and so I read this one, Strictly Between Us by Jane Fallon. Jane Fallon writes brilliant books. I love her storylines, I love her plots, and I like that her heroines, if you will, aren't exactly white as white. They are very complex characters, and so again I really loved this, found it compelling and finished it really quickly. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It's about 2 best friends, Tamsin and Michelle, and they've been best friends since they were little girls, and they've grown up together. Now in their adult years, Michelle is married to the perfect husband Patrick, but Tamsin is working in the same industry as Patrick, Michelle's husband, and she hears on the grapevine that her best friend's husband is actually having an affair. So what she does is this isn't spoilers, you can pretty much find out most of this information on the back. She sends her assistant B in undercover as sort of a honey trap to find out if she can figure out what's going on with Patrick and is he doing anything before she takes these sort of rumours to her best friend. Because obviously rumours like this can split up a marriage, and she wants to be certain before she goes to her best friend with any information. So she sends B undercover. And then there's an element of, can she really trust B with everything? Can she really trust B to tell her the truth? And so it's a look into friendship, betrayal, lies, did he or didn't he, and who do you trust? So I really like this, and I'm so glad I'm getting back into women's fiction again. Next up we've got Domina by Alice Hilton. I uploaded a video about Domina, it was my last video that went up, and I loved it. So I talked about Domina quite a bit in my last video, so I'm not going to go too much into it. It was 4 out of 5 stars, and I really enjoyed this. And the final book that I've got to talk about is this one, Lost for Words by Stephanie Butland. If you follow me on Instagram, I was part of a Bookstagram tour for this, where you posted a sort of a nice artistic picture featuring this book, and after I posted the picture I couldn't wait to read the book, and it was as good as I was hoping it would be. So it's about a woman called Loveday, and she works in a bookshop in York, a second-hand bookshop, and she is slightly alternative. She's got piercings and she's got tattoos with the words of her favourite books on her body, but then secrets start to arrive at the bookshop which threatens to rip apart a whole life that she's built for herself, and it turns out she's hiding some pretty big secrets. So it's a really interesting look at the life of Loveday, and I found it to be a really interesting character. I really felt for her, and I loved this book, and the way it unravels itself is pretty brilliant as well. There were 1 or 2 things I didn't like about it, 1 or 2 things that stopped it getting the full 5 stars for me, and there was literally just 1 or 2 cases in the text where the character speaks to the audience and says, but obviously you've never had anything like this before, so you wouldn't know how this feels, and I didn't like that for a couple of reasons. So that was the only part of it that stopped it getting a 5 star for me. But yeah, I really enjoyed Lost for Words, and it's a story that I think will stick with me because there's a couple of times I've walked past bookshops and the character Loveday's been the first thing that's jumped into my mind. So Lost for Words by Stephanie Butland was a really good read. So that's all of the books that I've read lately. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you've read any of them, let me know. If you've got any different opinions, I would really like to know, so let me know, and I will speak to you all soon. Bye for now.